Welcome everyone to the deep dive.
Great to be here.
Today we're really plunging into a fascinating and, well, sometimes pretty surprising topic, the whole diplomatic journey of India-US relations.
Quite a story.
It is. We've basically taken a stack of your sources, articles, research, our own notes, and we're going to pull out the really key bits of knowledge, the important insights for you. So the mission today, give you a kind of shortcut, a way to get really well informed on, over 7 decades now, twists, turns, economic stuff, strategic shifts.
Between the world's two biggest democracies.
Exactly. We'll cover all those cautious early days, the Cold War friction, nuclear diplomacy, right up to recent things like tariffs and political changes. It's quite a sweep.
And what makes it so compelling, I think, is just how unique this relationship is. You've got these two huge democracies,
Right.
but often with really different ways of looking at the world, yet they keep adjusting, keep recalibrating. Adapting, finding new common ground. We're definitely going to hit some of those aha moments, the ones that show you the deeper patterns in international relations, how things actually work, not just the theory.
Okay, let's do it. Let's unpack this right from the start. So the history books take us back to 47, India's independence. Now, you might think, okay, two democracies, they'll just naturally click, right? But India's policy, that non-alignment stance, that really set it apart from Washington's whole Cold War thinking.
It really did.
What was the sort of core idea there behind non-alignment? And how did the U.S. see it right away?
Well, India's non-alignment wasn't just like sitting on the fence. It was a very active assertion of strategic autonomy.
Yeah.
It meant India claiming the right to make its own foreign policy calls, without getting locked into one power bloc or the other, especially during that intense Cold War fight.
Right, the U.S. versus the Soviet Union.
Exactly. And this put India in a unique spot, often, clashing a bit with U.S. efforts to build that solid anti-Soviet front. And then you add in the U.S. starting to support Pakistan. That complicated things right from the get-go.
Okay, so early divergences. But the sources do point to a moment, maybe a brief one, of strategic convergence. The 1962 Sino-Indian War.
Yes.
Kennedy's administration actually sent military aid to India then. So a real moment of collaboration, even if it didn't last. How significant was that really in the bigger Cold War picture?
It was significant, but short-lived. A rare moment, really.
Yeah.
It definitely hinted at potential, shared worries about China's expansion at that time. But if you zoom out, it just underscores how deep those differing alignments actually were.
The foundations were just too different.
Too different, too strong for that one moment to really change the long-term path of the relationship back then.
And that 62 momentum, it faded pretty fast. The sources highlight this next period, especially the U.S. backing Pakistan in the 65 and 71 Indo-Pak wars that really soured things.
Severely.
And during the Bangladesh Liberation War in 71, the U.S. sent the USS Enterprise into the Bay of Bengal. That show of force. Wow. It must have landed heavily in India.
Oh, absolutely. That deployment was seen in India as, a directly hostile act. A very clear signal of U.S. support for Pakistan at a really critical moment. It was a deep diplomatic crisis.
And for India?
For India, it was a stark reminder of its isolation, from the Western Bloc, and that directly pushed India closer to the Soviet Union.
Leading to the treaty.
Exactly, the Indo-Soviet Treaty of 1971. And then just a few years later, India's first nuclear tests in 74, Smiling Buddha, that led straight to U.S. sanctions. And that really set the stage for nuclear tensions that basically stagnated trade and tech flows between them for years.
Okay, fast forward a bit. As the Cold War started to wind down, the research suggests India cautiously, maybe, reopened dialogue with the U.S.
Cautiously is the right word.
We see them accepting nuclear fuel for the Tirupur reactor, even taking IMF loans in the 80s. Was that just, economic necessity? Pragmatism? Or was it something deeper changing in India's view?
I think it was a mix, really. Pragmatism was definitely part of it.
Sure.
But it also probably reflected a quiet understanding on both sides that the world was shifting. The geopolitical map was changing.
But the big shift.
The real transformation, you could argue, didn't kick off until India's economic liberalization in 1991.
Ah, right. Opening up the economy.
Exactly. Moving towards a more market-based system that brought in more U.S. investment, more trade, and it really laid the groundwork for, much deeper engagement down the line.
Interesting, though, even with that economic opening, the sources show relations hit another major bump in 1998.
Operation Shakti.
India conducts 5 more nuclear tests. And the Clinton administration hits back immediately with fresh sanctions, defense, technology cooperation frozen.
Frozen solid.
You can wonder, how did the relationship even survive that? Such a big setback.
It's actually one of the most compelling parts of the story, because even when the official ties were really, really strained,
Right.
those underlying connections, scientific exchanges, cultural links, even quiet political contacts, they kept going.
Kept the channels open.
Exactly. The people-to-people stuff, the institutional links, they proved tougher than the immediate political fights. It really paved the way for things to thaw later.
That's a key insight, isn't it? Sometimes the quiet diplomacy, the unofficial stuff, keeps things alive when the formal channels are blocked.
Precisely. It maintains connections.
And that groundwork, it paid off. The material shows diplomatic engagement properly kicking back in around 1999-2000, Clinton's big visit to India.
A landmark visit.
And the start of the U.S.-India strategic dialogue. But the real game changer, at least from what I'm reading here, seems to be the 2005 Civil Nuclear Agreement.
Absolutely monumental.
How much did that really change things? The fundamental thrust, the strategic alignment.
Profoundly. It completely flipped the script on decades of mistrust around the nuclear issue.
Right. Allowed civilian nuclear cooperation.
Yes, and crucially, it opened the door to much deeper defense ties. It wasn't just about reactors. It was this powerful signal from the U.S.
A signal
that the U.S. now saw India as a responsible nuclear power and, maybe more importantly, as a key strategic partner, moving beyond that old Cold War framework.
And the impact on trade after that.
Oh, rapid and significant.
Yeah.
U.S. exports to India jumped. Partnerships started blooming in tech, education. It really cemented a much more robust relationship that had been, well, pretty constrained for so long.
So through the Bush years, then Obama, the sources talk about India becoming a, what's the term, major defense partner?
That's the designation, yes.
Meaning big military deals, joint exercises, sharing intelligence.
All of that. Significant upgrades in the defense relationship.
But it wasn't just defense, right? Trade tripled during that period.
Correct.
Cooperation broadened out. Climate change, counterterrorism, global governance.
It really diversified, yeah. And it raises an interesting question, doesn't it? How do two big democracies manage that? Deepening economic ties while still guarding their own foreign policy independence. What we saw was the U.S. backing India's bid for a UN Security Council seat, for example. That shows a clear recognition of India's rising global influence.
Even while they still had their own priorities.
Exactly. Both nations still navigated their own paths, but the relationship showed maybe a growing maturity. Differences could exist without derailing everything else.
Okay, let's bring it right up to date. The last few years, especially, say, during the Trump presidency, have thrown up some new challenges.
Some complexities, for sure.
Your sources mentioned tariffs on Indian goods actually doubling up to 50%, partly in response to India continuing to buy Russian oil and being cautious on U.S.-led sanctions. That sounds like a bit of a throwback.
It definitely introduced new friction, no doubt about it. And that wasn't the only thing.
Right.
There were diplomatic tensions, too, over things like alleged U.S. mediation attempts on India-Pakistan, ongoing spats about trade rules, technology access.
Some bumps in the road.
Definitely bumps. But here's the kicker. Despite all that, bilateral trade still hit, what was it, $128.5 billion in 2022-23.
Wow, okay. That's huge.
It speaks volumes, right, about the underlying economic forces at play. And collaboration kept expanding anyway. Defense, semiconductors, global governance.
So the core relationship held.
It seems so. And what's maybe most telling now is how India keeps doing this balancing act, maintaining strategic autonomy, keeping strong partnerships going with the U.S. and with Russia as it carves out its role in a multipolar world.
Okay, wow. We have covered a lot of ground here.
They certainly have.
I mean, from India's independence, non-alignment, the early Cold War stuff, through really tough times, like the 74 nuclear test sanctions, that USS Enterprise incident during the Bangladesh War.
Moments of real friction.
All the way to that strategic rebuild with the 2005 nuclear deal, the major defense partner status, and hitting trade figures like $128.5 billion recently, even with new tariffs popping up.
And if you had to boil it down, the overarching theme really is adaptability.
Right.
The relationship's incredible adaptability. And tied to that, India's consistent focus on strategic autonomy.
Even when things got really bad.
Especially then. Think about it. Deep mistrust, sanctions, totally different allies during the Cold War, India buying Russian oil today. Despite all that, those other channels, science, culture, even quiet political talks, they somehow kept going.
Always laying groundwork.
Always laying groundwork for the next phase, for more trade, more collaboration. It just shows how India keeps balancing its independence with deepening partnerships. It evolves, it doesn't just lock into one rigid alignment.
So, bringing it back to you, our listener, what does this whole long, complicated dance between these two global giants really mean? I think it shows that even the most complex relationships, the ones with real historical baggage, diverging interests, they can evolve. They can adapt. They can keep finding common ground, even while dealing with huge global pressures.
It's a testament to persistence.
Persistent diplomacy, yeah, and maybe the power of those underlying connections we talked about.
And that brings us to maybe a final thought, something provocative for you to chew on.
Okay.
Given India's unwavering commitment to this balancing act, strategic autonomy alongside strong ties with both the U.S. and Russia as it shapes its future in this multipolar world, what are the long-term implications for global power dynamics? How might that delicate balance really reshape the international landscape in the decades ahead?